So then you become so attached to it and so charmed in what's happening in front of you. I always think like kids, like young, like your nephew, 7 years old.
Right, 7, yeah.
His world is very small in how he thinks. So like whatever happens in his world is like amplified. And like the way you would see, you'd be like, why are you getting so attached to this?
Why are you getting so excited
Yeah.
about that? Yeah.
I think it's so small.
Yeah.
But I wanna recreate how we felt as kids. Just like so in the moment, so present. Like their sense of time is so much slower than ours.
It is.
And that's what I want to create. I want to basically create.
Bring back that youthfulness.
Yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
but also my strongest why though would be so I've been doing this now since May. I volunteer hospice. I do probably 8 hours a week or so. 8 hours a week at hospice. I don't know if you're familiar with hospice.
No, I do. I definitely know about hospice.
Yeah. So I do the hospice. So I volunteer the inpatient unit. So I help out with like family members, checking them in, and such. But also like talking to patients, and then also doing this thing called a vigil program where I'll be with somebody that's passing. But throughout that process, when I was becoming a volunteer, we had to do an exercise to the training where we had to fill out a piece of paper that said, "What do you want to do before you die?" And out of my class, I'm 23. Everybody else in the class, the next youngest person would probably be like in their 40s. Right. Most people in their 50s, 60s. And it was like a 10-minute exercise. And I literally, within 10 minutes, I just like jotted all these things down I want to do. And it's a piece of paper I carry with me everywhere I go, just as a reminder of like keeping on track. But when I wrote it all out, and then the volunteer coordinator was like, "All right, guys, whoever cares to share." And when I just looked around the room, I just remember seeing everybody around me like have the list like half full. I was like, I wonder why everybody has like their list half full when I have like this giant monumental list of like things I want to do. And it first got me thinking like, wow. So people already in that class have already done a good portion they want to do, and if I'm going to be able to do everything I want to do, I really got to get.
We got to get to moving.
I got to get together, get moving and such. And it was just interesting to also hear people in that class. Like one lady, she was like in her 60s, and one of the things she wanted to do before she died, she shared to everybody, she's like, "I want to fall in love again." And I was like, wow, that's just neat to see, like somebody that experienced at one time a loving relationship and then it ended for whatever reason.
Right.
Then she wants to refine love again, because that's not the case for a lot of people.
Some people get jaded once they find love and then it goes south or whatever. Yeah. They don't want it again, or they shun it, you know. So that is a beautiful thing that she wants love again.
Yeah. It was. And just again speak to, and that's what I love about connecting with people. Like the more you make yourself like vulnerable to somebody else, that's where like trust comes into play, and that's where like you really connect with somebody, because then you actually really get on a deeper level of, if I make myself vulnerable, then you would make yourself vulnerable, then we like really connect and we're able to actually have like a conversation.
Right. A real surface value.
Yeah. So again, still like going back to answering my why here. I don't know whether I mean to give like a long answer.
No, you're good. You're good.
Like what we're doing right now with podcasts, I've just found I'll never intend to do a podcast where I do it just to like become famous from it or get viewers or whatever the case may be. I do it because it creates a platform, or it creates an arena where like me and you right now are having a conversation,
right,
but on a deeper level that doesn't usually exist in our day-to-day lives.
That's true.
And from that, like you said, man, like ideas get sparked, or just a different thought process, different mindset, or different rewiring can happen.
Right.
Lights the switch.
Definitely, like when we were discussing like different individuals, and I brought up Dan Peña, and you were like, "Oh, I know Dan Peña." You're like, so I'm like, then that's a connection right there. You see what I'm saying? So,
dude, it is, man. It is. I'll get to Dan Peña here real quick, and then the last time I finished off on my why. Just the people I've been with the hospice. Being around people on a weekly basis and seeing them in a terrible situation. Like one gal I visit on a weekly basis, she hasn't got out of bed in probably 7 or 8 months, so she's bedridden. And just like seeing that, and it always gets me to think like, wow, do I want to live a life that's not purposeful? And then ultimately, at the end of my life, that's where my life becomes.
Right.
Sitting on a bed.
And then while you're sitting on that bed, all those thoughts are going through your head.
Again, there you go. Like then you get filled with regret and you start analyzing. It's like I had this thought one time when I was meditating. I was like, wow, it's almost like you meditate or you pray. Well, I'm just gonna stick on meditation. You know? Like you do all this meditation throughout your entire life to ultimately prepare yourself for when you're at that point in life when you transition to death. to where then you're able to do all this self-analyzing of yourself and your life, and you're able to go through that process of meditating to where then you're able to look at your life objectively and healthy and internalize like, wow, like I'm really content with how I live my life, or I don't understand why I didn't capitalize on my time on Earth. Right. So that's a big part of my why.
That's awesome.
It's not like a lot of people say like, oh, I have no regrets kind of thing, but it's more than just like saying no regrets. Like I have an understanding why I don't want regrets.
Yeah, you have to understand why. You can't just say like, oh no regrets.
Yeah.
It's understandable.
Yeah. So what was like the YOLO? Like
when
did that start? Like almost the people.
That's crazy, man. You only live once.
Yeah.
It's true. You only live
funny,
once.
yeah.
But you still have to. You can't just.
Those sayings are like so true. Like they're so like they're just so straightforward. But a lot of people saying without really contextualizing for themselves like what it actually means to them.
Right.
But yeah, those sayings are funny because they speak volumes. It's like you only live once, man. Like,
so you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
But yeah, dude, back to Dan Peña. You can easily do it. You can definitely do it. Right? Like if you want to be Dan Peña, you can totally do it for free. You just have to look on his calendar. He always comes out with a set calendar every single year where he's going to be at, and from that, you have to email his personal assistant, and you have to fill out an application. Then you fill out a couple other things saying like what your purpose is, your intention of meeting up with Dan Peña, and then you have to coordinate with meeting times, and you have to make that effort and take action on as far as like once you find a location, you're like that's kind of fairly close to where I'm living right now. I can afford the ticket, or I can drive out and meet him. And he gives 20 minutes of his time. Like as long as you make the effort and you show you have a purposeful, intentional action, he'll give you 20 minutes of time to just talk about whatever.
That's amazing.
So if you ever want to meet him, you can meet him.
Right.
And I met him in Oklahoma City. I met him at this fancy hotel, and it was a cool experience because it got me to travel to Oklahoma City when I otherwise would have gone.
You wouldn't have went otherwise.
And I talked to another dude right before I met him. There was also meeting Dan Peña. It was just interesting, like, oh, so why are you doing this, man? Like, why are you meeting Dan Peña? Like, how'd you even learn about him? Or what spoke to you about Dan Peña? And, like, I just like how he came across genuine. I just, I'm right now working in sales, and I'm just not happy with what I'm doing, and I want to take that change to elevate my life.
More action for himself.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Dan Peña's a straight shooter, man. when I watched the interview on London Real, I was like, this is a great guy, and I need to somehow meet him. So, and I didn't know. For those out there, I didn't know that he knew him, or met him.
Yeah.
Met him, so yeah.
One thing I love about how he's so old school, like when he did the Box and Burn podcast, he was still in a suit. Like
he's always in a suit, from what I know. I've never seen him outside of a suit.
Well, that's funny. Like I had to, like, you obviously got to dress up when you meet him. I dressed up, and he actually wasn't in a suit, which is funny.
Oh, for real? That's cool.
But yeah, he's always it's like he's always in a suit.
I've never seen him in a suit. What I like about him too is he's not afraid to be in different realms. Like I wouldn't have thought he would have been on the Box and Burn podcast, but he was.
So yeah, as like a business standpoint, he kind of recognized just how the shift in like where people's attention goes. He recognized like social media, the power of the internet. That's where it's at to really connect with younger audiences or people in order for people to find you.
Okay.
And so that's where he actually did his own podcast for a little while.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's got an interesting background. I don't know if he actually has a free audio book, Making Your First 100 Million or something like that. It goes into like his story and such, and it's interesting because he served too. He was in the army, I want to say. It was one of the two. I want to say it was the army. I could be wrong.
I'm gonna check on that.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy, man. Like. He's an interesting guy, man. Because then he did like a little document. He had a documentary in like the 80s or something where he had a film crew film him when he went out into Africa for big game hunting, and you can just see how he carries himself and how he's a very what do you call it? An A personality? What's the
A-type?
Yeah,
the A-type personality.
Yeah. He speaks on affirmations. He has 20 affirmations that he says every day, I think morning and night. It's the same affirmations that he says for a while.
Those great habits. He's got those great habits.
Yeah, those great habits.
That's what all the successful people have. They have the great habits.
Yeah, that's what because I'm looking forward to eventually when I have more time and I'm not focusing on certain books I'm reading right now, to read the business tools, Tim Ferriss book, Business Tools of the Titans.
Yeah.
Tools of the Titans. I've read a little bit, but man, there's like a plethora of different. Basically, every person he's interviewed, he's just taking like the habits and like what's made him successful.
Yes, and what I like about that book is like, okay, so in the book you can more or less read up on any person that he has on there. I told you I read up on Arnold Schwarzenegger, but then it has their website, their social media, so you can like once you find a person that you like, you can go and read up on that person fully.
Yeah.
So that's what I like. About it.
It's really neat how it was laid out that way. It's not laid out in the sense like you have to read from page 1 all the way to the end.
Right.
You can just open up, find a person, and it's even categorized in sections of like a group of people. Like the first section I think is like dealing with like nutrition or food. So it's like people
health,
involved in that world. Yeah, it's like health.
It's like health, wealth, and I forget the third, but
yeah,
I know
it's probably like
sections.
health, wealth, or relationships, or spiritualness
Right.
kind of thing. Because really, like in life, your life is separated in different sections of like relationships, finances, maybe like work,
work or health,
mindset, spiritual, faith.
right?
It's like those kind of components.
You gotta have that well-roundedness, more or less.
Yeah. I mean, we already have rounded heads, so I guess we need like.
Yeah, I don't. It's crazy.
It's vital.
It definitely is, man. You gotta have balance in life. Like you gotta have balance, but then at some point you still have to have that. How would you say tunnel vision? Like I was listening to the Amanda Bucci podcast, and they're more or less saying like at some point in life you can't have balance because you got to be super focused on what you want, right? And sometimes you got to be a little bit selfish, but then once you get to where you got to go, you got to step outside of that and get that balance again. So that's really what it's about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with the aspect of like balance, it's interesting because like everything you do, no matter what, like every life decision you make has consequences attached to it.
Exactly.
So I guess it comes down to making decisions that have less and less consequences attached to it.
There you go.
Be able to decipher it. Prioritize and execute right there.
There we go.
You ever hear of a guy who's a U.S. Navy SEAL, Jocko Willink? You heard of him?
Never heard of him.
He's also interviewed on London Real. He has his own podcast, talks about military history. Really great guy. He wrote a book called Extreme Ownership.
Extreme Ownership.
Yeah. Talks about his time in Ramadi. Have you heard of Ramadi? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he was the head SEAL commander of Team Bruiser, I want to say. Team Bruiser. But he talks about having a blue on blue and him having how he handled it and how he realized and how he addressed the entire briefing. I don't know how big, I can't remember how many people were in the room.
Briefings, depending on how high up it is.
It was a lot of people. Because then he had the top commanders or the top leadership above him come and show up for the briefing. He had to explain the situation.
Yeah, exactly what happened, why it happened, how it happened.
Yeah, so the book described it, but he's also done talks too that are interesting to watch as far as just watching his body language and really seeing, just like watching in his eyes, like what it meant to him to be in this room and have asking people straight up like, who's responsible for this? And he'd let everybody that wanted to raise their hand say like, I'm responsible because of this, I could have done this to prevent it. And then like once like a lot of people went through answering and saying like, I'm responsible, he said, none of you guys are responsible. Ultimately, the day it's all on me. It's whatever happens as a unit, it falls through me. So
he's the leader.
Yeah. So then you can relate it back to your own life. So whatever happens in your life, no matter what, no matter how bad or how good, it all falls on you.
Exactly.
So
extreme ownership.
Yeah.
That's really true. It was several times when I was in the military. When I came back from Afghanistan and Iraq, both times, you find yourself like not wanting to even go to work. You know what I mean? So there was one time where we had came back and we just, you know, at work, because when you come back, you don't